guys, so Zebin Wyk here from Wyk Productions Live.
And I'm Corbett Baratta.
Yeah, that's who he is.
Yep.
And so today we are doing a review slash kind of recap of just the whole season of the Doctor Who spinoff Class.
Woo!
Yeah, which was 8 episodes, so it was like a mini spinoff.
It's a mini series.
Yep.
So now there's cliffhangers.
Yeah. So I guess we'll just dive right into it. So start with you, Corbett. As a season overall, how would you describe it? Like, what were your thoughts with that?
I thought it was pretty good. I mean, I knew Patrick Ness because I read his book, so I was wanting to see like what would happen the first time he did the TV show. And overall, I thought it was a very good Buffy-esque kind of show. Entertaining. Maybe it's not the best thing I've ever seen on television, but I think it's very entertaining. I think it's very good for what it is, and I think that it just definitely deserves to have a second season.
Okay. Yeah, me personally, I thought it was alright as a spin-off of Doctor Who. Unlike the other spin-offs of Doctor Who, like Torchwood, Sarah Jane, and then, if you even want to go to the earlier ones, like K9 Company and so forth.
K9 Company was so great. It's just like, what the is that?
Yeah. Class kind of moves away from being like the typical spin-off of Doctor Who, which I was okay with, but at the same time, and I saw a few interviews of Patrick Ness saying, he kind of wanted to move away from the typical spin-off of Doctor Who, so it's explore new spots of the Doctor Who universe, which is fine. I have no problem with that. Because if you want to expand the universe, do it. That's fine. The only issue I have with this season, anyways, is they had very, very little references back to Doctor Who.
I think I was fine with that. I'd always asked for a Doctor Who spinoff that tried to not be related. Because to me, the Doctor Who universe is giant. You said, there's corners we can't reach on the regular show because there just isn't time. So I've always wanted to see a show. I kind of like that its first, I think it's almost essential its first season at least tries to stay away because it can always go back to referencing Doctor Who. So I feel like he needed to establish everything is working on its own so then he could...
Yeah.
Otherwise it feels like he's almost using the crutch of Doctor Who to make his show work, which I think he wanted to avoid overall.
Still though, as with that being said, this first season, it was alright. I think the best way I can describe it anyways, for my personal preferences, is the beginning was kind of slow, not too much really happened. Then once we hit about that mid-season episode and on, it started getting better from there. And honestly, the past 2 episodes from the finale, I actually thought were really well done. And I'm glad that director is actually moving on to Doctor Who episodes.
Wayne Yip's really good at it.
He's
direction.
Yeah.
I feel like 8 episodes was almost too short. I feel it should have been at least 10.
Yeah.
I feel like with the compressed room that he had to use to make a storyline and also have episodes that tried to stay away from that, where you could show off its actual flexing, I almost feel like he wasn't given... I had a similar problem with the X-Files earlier this year. I feel like as much as I like how it helps the story out a bit, I feel like this is the kind of show that does work almost more episodically.
Yeah.
And because of that, I think that reduced count doesn't really help it.
Yeah.
More than it.
Yeah, and you're definitely right with Class, especially. They could have definitely maybe used a few more episodes to flesh it out.
But then again, it's also one man writing all of it, so they probably didn't want to stress him too much with it.
I know that personally because I have to write 6 episodes for my web series each season, and that's.
Honestly, I'm kind of surprised how tonally different and how varied he was able to be.
Yeah.
During the season, I think it showed that he's very impressive and very good for writing.
The tone definitely changed from the first half to the second half. You could definitely recognize it by I mean, just how like the episodes were. Like the first half, were like, oh, okay, we're kind of just figuring out. It's like second half, like, okay, let's get down to business. It's like, oh yeah, there's definitely a tonal shift, like the first half and second half. The characters throughout the season that we've met, which really it's kind of the same ones we just meet over again. The parents were a little more involved than like parents in Doctor Who, minus like Rose's mom, who was probably.
See, I really like that they developed the parents, but at the same time, I feel weird that they're basically now fodder that they use to just kill them off. Like it seems like he basically just built them so that their deaths would almost seem more dramatic.
Yeah.
Rather than actually, I felt like it would have been great if we could have grown with those characters more and see how the parents developed, because they too were well interested. I don't know if it's a bad thing, because it's still good character development on his part. I still kind of feel kind of cheated that he just basically uses them in the end to be, oh, you're going to die now.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, so like, yeah. So if we really want to talk about the finale here, we'll obviously through the finale we'll touch on points that also will touch on the rest of the season. But the finale, and you and I came up with pretty much the best tagline to it. Everyone dies.
Everybody dies in this episode.
I mean, it's brutal. Like, if you are watching this class, you'll know in the very first episode, Ram has his girlfriend brutally murdered right in front of him.
With loads of blood.
With loads of blood. Just kind of imagine that happening to multiple people in this episode.
At least he didn't have like bloody deaths where like everyone
yeah. It didn't explode blood, but like
there was some.
But like I swear there's like so many people dying in this episode, and it's
they gotta raise the stakes, you can't raise stakes without murdering everyone, apparently.
Yeah.
I feel like that's one of the weird like quirks I've noticed that he's had in this show that I never really saw before. Is for some reason in the show he has a really big thing for kind of just killing off characters when he needs like dramatic intent. Like it's just like his like go-to like, oh look, here's one. It's kind of Joss Whedon-y almost.
Yep, I was just thinking that. Yeah. But yeah, so we have a great film. We have a great starting chemistry between Miss Krill and Tanya.
Yes.
That was interesting. It started off a little shaky, but then as the episode went on, it's like, okay, this is a lot.
I feel like that's the whole episode. I feel like it started off shaky, and then I feel like he didn't know how he wanted to start it, but he knew exactly where he was going with it.
Yeah.
So it feels shaky when he starts, and then as it goes on, you can kind of see his intent. I also love that Tanya finally got some development.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, only night visiting really touches on her.
Yeah.
Other than this.
Which is a shame, because they could have totally used like the other episodes to like expand your character. But
like even Detained, which is supposed to be the bottle episode, all character development thing, doesn't really touch on her.
No.
Which is kind of weird when you think about it, that she's kind of like pushed to the side the most of any of these characters.
So obviously the finale is basically what the beginning of the season introduced the Shadowkin and basically Charlie's race. What's going to happen. So obviously, just this is a warning now. If you haven't seen the finale, we are going to say spoilers.
I feel like we've done spoilers.
So if you're still watching up to this point,
I think you know.
I think you. Yeah, if you haven't watched it, you're still watching. It's like, okay, well then
you're gonna have to put a spoiler tag in the description.
Yeah, or just put it on. Yeah,
just put it on there.
But yeah, so Charlie does use the Cabinet of Souls. I mean, it was pretty guessable that he's going to, but he did.
And then he committed genocide,
which he committed his own genocide of his own race by doing
double genocide.
Yeah.
Which he didn't think was going to happen. He thought of a weird belief.
Charlie's thought was when he released the souls in the Cabinet of Souls that they would be reborn on the planet, but they all just killed the Shadow King, and that was that, pretty much.
Yeah.
In the end, like when everything's done, like when all the Shadow King are completely wiped away, well, I'll get to that. Or all of them are wiped away. There's like one remaining soul like left from it that apparently didn't want to attack anybody. I don't know why. It's just,
well, I mean, that was supposed to be the point, is he thinks he's going to die from it because that's what it's supposed to do.
Yeah.
And then it turns out that's the punishment. Because Doctor Who weapons always have to punish you by making you realize you committed genocide.
I mean, yeah, the Doctor had to go through
The
that.
moment
so.
did that too.
Yeah.
That was the moment's
Yeah.
punishment. That was he would have to live and he committed genocide against his people.
Yeah. But so, I mean, eventually, you know, the little soul goes towards Ram. They think it goes in Ram, but then we find out later. So maybe we should backtrack. So I'm gonna try to get his name right.
Cornicus.
Cornicus. Yes. The main leader of the Shadow King for the most part. You know, he's had all of his men circling Quill, Tanya, Charlie. I can't remember Charlie's boyfriend's name. Matthews. April. And so they're all kind of, and then the headmistress who works for the governors.
I feel bad for her.
I know, I feel bad for her too. We'll get to that like in a brief second, like, but like, so they're all kind of, it's kind of like a standoff pretty much between the Shadow King and all of them, and we find out that the only way to really stop the Shadow King is to kill their king, which if you guys have seen the season, you know April did actually, she didn't kill Copernicus, but she defeated Copernicus in battle, which means by their law, she is their new king, or queen, I guess in this instance.
Well, it's king because it's non-gendered title.
Yeah.
According to the race.
Yeah, according to the Shadow King, it's king. So Charlie has to make, you know, the tough decision that he has to kill the king, which is April. So April dies, and that random soul that we were talking about at the end ends up going into her. But in the end, she ends up taking up Copernicus's body because her heart was attached to his body. And so now she is the last remaining Shadow King,
Jesus Christ.
but she doesn't want to kill people like the Shadow King. Yeah, this episode was very complex.
I feel like making a bet. How long do you think it's going to take for them to put her back in the human body again so they don't got to pay for the Shadow King costume?
Yeah, I don't know. I know there's so many times you and I were like, we were talking like throughout the episode, and we were trying to figure out like how everything was going. And then like we were trying to figure out like if Charlie kills someone, if this.
We were strategizing on how any of this works.
This episode is so complex. It's like if you even try thinking about it for like a good solid minute.
I feel like it's the kind of thing Patrick Ness knew in his head, but like by the time it came out, it didn't come out clearly, so it ended up leaving kind of the audience confused. Because there's all these like, it's like a ton of rules and regulations to how all this is supposed to work.
Yeah.
And it's basically all set up as like a perfect box, so Charlie has to commit genocide. So.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. But I'll say overall, the finale was a good finale. It was a good finale. Good ending for the season at least.
I think it's kind of weak at first, but I do think it's very well structured.
Yeah.
It all sets up well so that it really does seem like the only option is the way they go.
Yeah. So I did the stupid thing before watching this. I accidentally looked up some spoilers unintentionally, and I knew that there was going to be a Doctor Who villain that a lot of people actually kind of like, and I'm glad they involved it because it's about time something else from Doctor Who came in.
Well, he had the Doctor himself.
Well, barely had the Doctor.
He was in for 10 minutes or so. That's pretty big on a spin-off.
10 minutes out of 55 minutes.
Like the only one where he had more was Sarah Jane Adventures.
Wow. Yeah. But they actually introduced, well, not introduced, but they brought in the Weeping Angels.
Who are apparently are new.
Who I guess the governors are in league with.
Yeah. Because the whole time we're told the governors are supposed to be like this research kind of like group meant to find something, and then we find out they're actually this sort of religious cult waiting for this arrival who try to use that guy as it's very interesting.
Which I'm guessing, like, they show a carved thing that looks like a huge weeping angel with the head missing. So we're assuming that the arrival is like the arrival of the
maybe that's what the Statue of Liberty was in Angels Take Manhattan.
I don't know. But I guess the arrival for the governors is, I guess, something to do with the Weeping Angels. So
well, I mean, they have to keep it unclear on purpose, so they have something for the second season to.
But see, I'm glad about that, because I feel like the Weeping Angels, if they do have a second season for this, I feel like that would be a very interesting enemy to kind of use, because like in Doctor Who, you know, like we get the basis of what the Weeping Angels do. Like we get the general stuff, but it'd be interesting to see how the Weeping Angels actually work with like someone of the governors. Like, because we've never.
I've always wanted to know the culture of the Angels.
Yeah.
They don't get to speak really. They just get to walk around and murder people.
So I'm very interested, if they do have a season 2 for this, I'm interested to see how they use the Weeping Angels in league with the governors for this arrival of some sorts. So yeah.
And then he sneaks up from the back and kills Judea.
Yeah.
I guessed it was going to be a Weeping Angel, but I was like, no, I don't want her dead.
Yeah, so like throughout the episode, like they're talking about time and how the time rifts is how the Shadowkin are coming through, even though the connection was apparently severed. But as they kept talking about like time and the hidden mistress says, well, and here basically time like doesn't exist because we can control it. And I'm like, yeah, like I know I read the spoilers that the Weeping Angels were in it, but I was like, you know, they are laying down the tracks very subtly that the Weeping Angels are coming back, because if you remember in the 2-part Weeping Angel episode in Series 5 with Matt Smith, they talk about Weeping Angels in context of time. So it was like, oh, this actually makes sense why the Weeping Angels showed up at the end, because they have everything to do with time.
What I find interesting is the whole part where the head of the governors goes on to Dorothea asking her about her pure intent for things.
Yeah.
So I'm really wondering what their actual philosophy is. Like, what do they mean when they say there's someone of pure intent? Because we know Dorothea tries to help Quill and do all these things against the organization beforehand, and that's why she's punished. So I'm very interested to see how the governors works more, now that we know they're going to basically be the lead villain if the show's renewed.
Yeah. With the cliffhanger of Weeping Angels, I hope they do it, because I was like you said, like we don't know the culture of the Weeping Angels, so I would love to dive into that and get more like deep details on the Weeping Angels, because Doctor Who, we get the general idea of Weeping Angels. I want to know more about them now though, because if they can work in league with the governors, what more can they do? Yeah, the involvement of the Doctor. Well, as little as it is, really. You know, it was kind of just I don't know, I guess I want to say like a sending off of saying, alright, you're a part of the universe, now go do your own thing.
Bye, which is more than Torchwood ever got, really.
Yeah.
Torchwood got to be its... Torchwood had to be its own thing, because they wouldn't let the Doctor on an adult show.
I mean, it could have worked, but like...
Well, it could have, but the BBC made a restriction because they didn't want kids watching Torchwood.
Yeah.
And the kids can watch this, apparently, with its brutal murders and its sex and its... Yeah. This show's brutal.
That's
the only thing. I feel like he almost tries too hard to make it seem tougher than it is.
Yeah.
Like, dude, you're making a show for like 15-year-olds. You're not. You don't really need to stretch it. We get it. You're better than other YA writers at being true to life. You don't need to.
Yeah. But yeah, so Well, the inclusion of the Doctor was nice. I mean, I feel, now that I go back to the whole season, I feel like it could have done without the Doctor, to be honest.
Yeah.
It really could have.
It feels like he's almost sticking his head in just to be like...
I know, it's like, oh hey, I'm here. Okay, see ya.
Let me make a media studies joke and I'm good.
Yeah.
Doctor dropped a burn on me, so I feel like it's good. Honestly, I feel like it was just because we didn't have any Doctor Who this year.
Wow.
So they're just like, here's your bone, wait till Christmas.
Yeah. But yeah, so I guess we've come to the point where we actually rate. So we'll rate the finale.
Yeah.
Then we'll rate the season as a whole. So with TV shows, I do a scale of 1 to 10. That also goes for the season as well.
Yeah.
So for the finale, what score would you give it?
I think I'd give it an 8 out of 10. I'd give it like an 8.5, but I feel that the beginning being as loose as it was, it is almost cannon fodder, need to kill anyone, kind of lowers the score a bit. But I think overall it was very well structured in the end. I think it worked effectively, and I'm excited for more, so
Cool.
I'll give it an 8 out of 10.
Okay. Yeah, I'd have to agree with you. Yeah, for the finale, I'd definitely do 8 out of 10. And yeah, I mean, it's a good finale. Don't get me wrong, it's a good finale.
But it's a rough finale.
It is a rough finale. There's some things that definitely could have been hashed out a lot more and made more clear.
And it feels like Ram was almost put in there for no reason, because Ram doesn't do much.
Yeah, Ram's character was kind of wasted in this episode, to be honest. Like, he was just kind of the one...
Especially being with his dad dying, you feel like that'd be a bigger thing. It just seems like he's there to be like,
Yeah.
I am part of this show.
Yeah.
He's the Tanya of this episode.
Yeah. As a season, how would you rate this?
I think I'd give it... I think an 8.5 would be good. I'm going to give it more benefit of the doubt than I usually would, just because it's a first... I give more benefit of the doubt to first seasons, but I feel for one dude having to create a whole season of television, and for how well it ended up, and for what it is, I think it does a very good job. Like I said before, I think it does a very good job of being the show it's meant to be, which is a nice little YA Buffy kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think I commend Patrick Ness for being able to write a whole season of television that's as good as it is. I think there was a lot of great direction and cool ideas that we got, especially in episode 7 and 6, which are both very, very well done.
Yeah.
So I feel like I'll give them slightly higher marks, and I kind of think it should, just because that second half really does put the show in a higher league than it would have been otherwise.
So you said 8.5?
Yeah.
Okay. I would probably give it... Oh, jeez.
Yeah, this was a tough one for me too.
I'm going to have to go slightly lower than you.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I don't know. I want to say 7.5.
Honestly, I kind of agree, but I was just giving them... I was kind of raising him a bit more just because there was a lot of effort put into it. Like
I mean, yeah, I don't disagree with you on that point. I could tell there was effort put into this, but at the same time, as a season on its own, towards the finale, it kind of found its legs. But like, as a season as a whole, like, it was kind of stumbling.
I think episode 2 especially was kind of rough.
Yeah.
Definitely, like, it suffered from second episode syndrome where it needed to be something. And all it could figure out was be weird dragon monster.
Yeah.
I felt like also there could have been more like creatures or something. Like, I feel like there's a lot of cool concept. I don't think we got like a lot of the cool monsters he was promising. Like, we got Dragon Dude, and then we had the Shadowkin for most of the episode. I felt like if we saw more cool creatures that they had, and even more of the great ideas he comes up with the second half, like the prison away from time and space and the metaphysical engine and stuff like that, we could have... It definitely would have had a higher score if he had brought out more of those ideas faster.
Yeah, and I mean, again, like we said before, Patrick Ness says he wanted to we want to touch on the aspects of the Doctor Who universe that haven't been touched yet. I feel though at the same time he could have probably gone the route of using creatures that are shown in Doctor Who, like make new ones, but that are like kind of used like they are used in Doctor Who. Because as you said, we didn't really get that many creatures. We got
a lot of cool dark concepts and stuff like that, but even just like the stuff that isn't a monster, but just like even the cool like episode ideas don't really come out. There's maybe like it really is episode 6 and 7 that bring this season as high as it does, if it can, because those two really are kind of the masterfully directed, masterfully written.
Yeah.
Just like really show off what this show can be. And everything else, while a lot of it's good, it just kind of feels like a bit empty because it seems like I do think that's also an episode length thing too.
Yeah.
Because he had to have that storyline, and one of them was a two-parter. He had to.
Yeah.
He had less to work with.
Yeah, and I mean definitely episodes 6 and 7 actually to me felt more Doctor Who wise than the rest of the season, which again was probably why it was.
And the Lincoln, I almost forgot the Lincoln. The Lincoln were actually really cool as well in episode 3. They were a very cool monster, but I almost wish she had more cool monsters like that. Monsters represent.
Yeah.
That's the one thing I do appreciate is he was willing. Is he said he wanted to touch on themes Doctor Who couldn't, and he did. He luckily didn't touch on like a lot of death and genocide and a lot of the darker aspects of stuff Doctor Who really can't because it has to be family friendly.
Yeah. I mean, let's not be wrong though. There are a few Doctor Who
there's
episodes.
a lot of dark Doctor Who episodes.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that they can't really approach every direction with it because they have to watch out for ratings. So a 6-year-old can still appreciably watch it without being like scarred for life. This luckily is aimed towards an older audience, and so can try. And luckily it doesn't suffer what Torchwood suffered, where it tried way too hard to be adult in its first season.
Yeah.
There's no like weird like people creeping up on each other, people just having sex for no reason.
Or making out and then suddenly you just turn to dust.
And no episode it was as bad as Cyberwoman. So if anything, that should like show how good the season is. Like, there was no Cyberwoman.
Yeah. That was that episode. Yeah.
I think that might be the worst thing ever made in Doctor Who history, and that's saying it.
I don't know, but yeah. So that's kind of our thoughts on the finale and then the season as a whole. Whether it gets renewed for a second season.
I hope so. I want to come back next year.
Yeah, I hope.
I mean, I'm prepared, and plus he expertly used the cliffhanger, so the network now feels more inclined to.
Yeah. So that's our thoughts on Class Season 1 and the finale. If you have been watching Class or whatever, let us know what you thought about it. So I'm Zayden Wyk.
I'm Corbett Baratta.
And I guess I will see you guys on whatever my next video happens to be. I know I haven't been doing too many videos, but I've been pretty busy lately.
Doctor Who: The Reasoning, a new era comes out this month, I believe.
Do look for the final live-action season of Doctor Who: The Reason, a new era. I plan to have that out because I pretty much have everything. So I plan to have that out the week of Christmas.
Christmas gift.
So it'll be kind of my Christmas gift to you guys. I'm about 75%. Maybe 60% done with my Batman audio story, so that I hope to have out within hopefully the next week.
You better listen for my cameo, yo.
Yeah,
the greatest.
Yeah. And then probably most likely I'll get some of my friends who like Doctor Who, and we'll probably do another over the internet review of the Christmas special.
The Return of Dr. Mysterio.
Yeah.
I can't wait. Doctor Who superheroes.
I know. And we may or may not. I don't know. I'll I'll scan the field to see, but we may or may not do a review for Rogue One over online. I don't know because I don't know how everybody's schedule will be.
But Rogue One's coming out, yeah.
Yeah, Rogue One. 2 weeks now.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's pretty, yeah. So yeah, anyways, remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time.
Woo.
Peace.